What's up, everybody? Brett Okamoto from ESPN, coverage of UFC 256 all week in Las Vegas, and we are joined today by none other than UFC lightweight Tony El Cucuy Ferguson. And Tony, it's nice to see you. Nice to see you in person.
Yeah,
I feel like
absolutely.
that's something we've taken for granted maybe up until this year.
I think so. Don't take that for granted, guys. Look at, man, this is amazing. This is my first time actually at the Apex, and there's no pandemic to worry about or get sports started or any of that, all the above. This is why we do this, man. It's a good reminder. So it's pretty cool.
What was it like for you, man? I was looking at your record, and I didn't realize this until today. Your 30th pro fight coming up. Your 30th fight, when you look down there and know that you're going to be facing Charles Oliveira there in a few days, you get nervous, you get butterflies. Like, what are the feelings looking down at that?
No, this reminds me of The Ultimate Fighter. Actually, the pandemic, right? Think about it. In The Ultimate Fighter, it was almost like preparation for this. We were locked away for about 6 to 7 weeks. No outside contact in the world. Mm-hmm. We had a limited supply of things that we could order. No music, no whatever, no endless amounts of alcohol. And then what you do is what you got this. Everybody's fighting for the exact same thing, right? So the UFC and The Ultimate Fighter prepared me for this shit. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty actually nice. I bet you that's the same octagon as that was used in The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, maybe.
And I guarantee it, I'm looking at it, I'm remembering those little steps on the sides and everything, and it's bringing back good aura. Because I looked out there and I looked at all the jerseys and I got to see my signature with the Team Lesnar. Mm-hmm. It's so awesome. I love it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, you're talking about good memories there, and I remember talking to you a couple weeks ago. You said, you weren't happy with the way that UFC 249 went. Obviously, you weren't happy with the way you fought Justin Gaethje, and you said you were going to change a lot of things leading into this fight. What have you changed going into UFC 256?
Ooh, man, I've changed a lot. I mean, I can go into detail about it, but I took everything that was toxic, and I took myself out of situations that, for the last 8 years, I allowed people to paint me in, 7 years actually, paint me in a certain way. And I just kind of let it go, and I took notes on everybody. I got to see who was connected. I got to see who was working with who and got to do that. And I just paid attention and took notes. And so me and my crew that's in the dark, we just all just watched and just kind of let things go. Well, here we are, right? And we're back here and towards the end of 2020. And here we go again. The company right here, they need a guy like me to come through. And, the company's doing great throughout the year. Mm-hmm. But what I see is the fans, the supporters. When they kind of like start dying towards the end of the year, right? What happens, man? It's because the company made the numbers throughout the beginning and the middle of the year. But towards the end of the year, everybody starts to lag off. And I started seeing that with fighters. They're not trying to show up. They're falling out. We have COVID and things. Nobody's stepping up. Hardly anybody stepping up. Media is having, we're trying to figure out what's going on next. I saw that I was getting pushed out of the way. You had 1 and number 4 being brought up, boom, over here. And then you had number whatever, boom, which is going to make me number 5.
Connor and Dustin?
Yeah, which is going to make me number 5. They play the same thing. It's a logarithm. They have it. Matchmaking. Joe Silva jammed out, so they let them with the formula. I figured it out. It's pretty awesome, dude. Pretty smart, but I dig it. So what we did is we threw a wrench into that proper. Now it's improper 13. Don't forget it's the Hunger Games, baby.
And is that why you're fighting in December? Because I think that the reason you're here in December is because of you, right? I mean, the UFC was not really knocking down your door having you fight in December. They were happy to have you fight in January, right? Why is this fight happening?
I don't know. We'll see if they were trying to have me fight in January, because what ended up happening was the UFC said, we're going to offer you so on and so forth, right? And then, Chandler's not available. And then Chandler's like, am I available? So somebody was lying along the lines, which is consistent. So it's a consistent effort that everybody has to avoid me, which I love, part of my language. But I'm here to fight. I'm here to compete. And if people aren't here to compete or to do that, why the hell are you here? And everybody else is in limbo, but I know exactly where I'm at. And for the last couple of years, like I said, I just kind of stopped worrying about what everybody else was doing and focused on what I'm doing. And where everybody else is still scrolling, they're still plugged in. I've been on the Matrix for a long time. This is reality. This is as real as it gets. And you don't leave it to the judges.
And it did seem like maybe, and I was going to ask you this, was part of this, pushing for this fight here in December is it's going to be on Tony time now. It seems like you've been the company man. You've stepped up to the plate when they've needed you and things like that. But you wanted to fight in December. Michael Chandler wasn't ready. He said that he wanted some time after cutting weight in October. That you wanted to fight in December, so you wanted an opponent in December. Is that kind of another reason why this fight's happening?
Calling people out on it's poker. I mean, you can play off the river, or you can be like Maverick and you can just know exactly what card you're holding in your hand. And the cards that I have in my hand, right? Everybody knows. I have zero privacy. I made it that way. I feel completely naked, where people are pulling to my right on my arm and pulling to the left. Tony, what's so special about what you do? Why are you different than everybody? What is your secret? Remember when I took you to the spot and you didn't even use any of that media? And I'm sitting here and I'm looking in my hand, and I'm looking at it, and I tell this to all my trainers and all my athletes, and they're pulling on me in, and everybody's jaded. And I call it jaded, right? And they're tearing me apart, and then they're trying to figure out what's so special about what I do or why my academy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still looking this, and I'm smiling, and then think about it. Years go by, and I'm tattered and torn, and all of a sudden they finally get my hands open, and they're looking at me, and they're going, that's it? Whatever they saw that wasn't special is still special to me. Mm-hmm. And I've carried that for so long, but I stopped worrying about what everybody started thinking, and I stopped caring about it because I used to feel like I used to have to carry the world on my shoulders. And I did it for a certain time, and it's cool. Now it's to that point where I can just pass it now. I've gotten to that point in that stage in my life of not enlightenment, of just for me being with my faith and my family and my friends.
And so some of that is discussing some of the changes you've made, and you mentioned cutting out some of the people that were maybe weighing you down a little bit mentally. How about from a technical standpoint? I mean, Francisco Rivera, he's new, right? I mean, he's your new head coach. He has not been your head coach.
I don't
previously.
have a coach. When's the last time I had a coach? Ask me.
You've had coaches, but not a head coach, I suppose, right? You are the head coach.
Coaches, trainers. We'll call them trainers.
Yeah.
Now, I gave a lot of people props because nobody would listen to me. And that's when you take your value, right? And nobody understands your value. So you have to have somebody that's up there that has that. Well, maybe you do. Maybe other people do. I don't have coaches. The coaches I had, they've raised me to the point where if they couldn't get me to that spot, they had to make phone calls. I plateaued with a lot of people, man, and I try to carry them as much as I could. Those people, they still have their house, they still have their academies, and they still have a whole bunch of stuff. You even have a job still. He has a job still. The fight still would have got on, right? But it would have took a lot longer, maybe. I was just discussing right now. I was like, what sport would have brought back? Try to think about that. It took like me, an American made with Mexican parts, right? That had his belt stripped, that has been battered, tattered and torn, threatened, everything, targeted. And you even knew it too, and nobody spoke up. But yet I stepped up to the plate, and I went to bat, and I made base hits. And here we go.
So in May, that fight was for some other people. In addition to yourself, it probably was for a lot. This fight here, this is for you. Is that what you're saying?
It was for the world. Think about that. For the one time in my life, nobody could copy me by making that weight for ESPN. On that Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday, when all the fights and everybody looked like they just like apocalypto, with all the fear and everything that was going on, I showed up. I was the only that, and even my team, they walked away. Nobody stayed. I cut that weight myself. Nobody was around except for my cousin John, and he showed up. The people that show up and are clutch, because clutch is instilled in me. And Brock gave me that tenacity, that he not gave me, he encompassed it, and he said, you know what, you got all the tools, kid. You got to do something with it. The calm before the storm, the haze in the barn, Tony. You know exactly what you're doing. Nobody will ever understand why I made that weight. I got up to 181 pounds on that Sunday night, eating chips and a bunch of bull in my academy, doing it on purpose because I knew that on that Friday I was going to cut all the way up to championship weight, and nobody was going to do it. And I did it, and the only thing that was on ESPN that day, which nobody can jock my style ever. And that's the pinnacle of everything, and I love that. For that one time when I had this little thing, that one little special thing of making that weight, and however silly it looked and however skinny and whatever the it looked like, for that time in my life, everything made sense. And from that point on, I made it a direct way in myself that I would never feel like that again for everybody else. As toxic as everybody is, they can't take a joke. So
fighting for yourself now, what's the change there, and what's motivating you? What's motivating you coming in this fight?
It's my team. It's my team.
Because I've also heard you say that you don't care about the belt anymore, right? That the belt is not real.
Hold on. Hold on, I'm fucking brother.
Okay.
Right? We all know that. When it comes down to it, it's a wet dream, Brett.
The title.
You've seen it. You've seen them dangle it in front of me. You've seen them do this stuff. ESPN is still talking about Conor. When's the last time Conor fought? You know what I mean? You have these guys, they have no backbone, but yet they got money. And people want to go towards money. I get it. So you're just like everybody else. Any person that's going to go out there and not see the value that people bring to the table that is like different, right? I had to increase it. I built my academy. I started pulling in other fighters. I have resumes from all over the world, man. I got people from SpaceX 9 all the way to other places that are hitting me up and saying, how can I be a part of the program? What can I do to be a part of your stuff, Tony? And they're on my network, and I love them. I got guys like David Goggins that's in my phone, and there's only a couple people that have his number. And you got other people that are special that trust me to get in the dark. Those guys right there, man, they're always doing the stuff. When you save the world, you think you get a medal? Nah, you don't hear. What you hear is, you didn't do it good enough. You didn't do that great. You got hit. You're never going to be the same. So what I say is, you're welcome. You're welcome. Everybody, you're welcome. De nada. It took this guy to get everything back going. I was trying to figure out what sport would have brought it back. Football? No. Baseball? Nope. Basketball? Nope. It took a guy like me, the type of guy, right, that's going to get treated for the longest time, to still say, you know what, I'm going to show up the way I said I was still going to, because I started here in the mailroom. I want to run this place one day. Forrest Griffin started in the mailroom too. And he kept his word. And he kept it going, and he drove his car for the longest time, and people clowned on him. And what he did was he kept it, and he just kept on going. It's guys like him that are my mentors, like Brock, that are doing it, and they're making it happen, and they're being like, hey, do you need any help? And I'm making myself available to the Performance Institute, because I always thought, you know what, nah, man, I can't, I got my own thing. I've increased my value to that point where I have. But with Bo as my strength and conditioning coach over at the Performance Institute, and Heather, my therapist, and Forrest as one of my coaches, the Performance Institute is my home now. And I love it, and I'm a very big part of it, and I want to keep adding to it. I'm looking at the recovery center, and nobody uses it. I want to run that facility. I want to teach these younger athletes of what it does take to get from a knee injury, right? A knee injury. When I had my belt stripped away from me because I got hurt, right? Because a couple select people wouldn't make a phone call. And I had it stripped. So I'm going to say you're welcome. Again, pin the blame on me. Through turmoil, thick and thin, I will keep on f***ing.
Well, what about the fight this weekend? You mentioned online that you have concerns over Charles Oliveira making weight. How come?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Why? What happened?
I said my piece. So if he and they put that on his nutritionist, they got like how many people taking care of him? I don't care. I've got my guys. I've got my crew. I will always be the last to eat, and I will always be the one that go out there first, front line. It doesn't even matter, man. These guys, they need to act like they want to be inside this octagon. If you can't make the weight, and you want to talk title, and you want to talk champion, and you're showing up 4 pounds over because, one, you're going to start rehydrating on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you know you're not going to make that weight, you're going to have a bunch of angry people at you if you're not making that weight. And it's not going to be me or my people.
Last thing I want to ask you about, if you're okay with it, is one of the cooler things that I saw you post on social media this year was your watch party of Khabib and Justin. And it was very cool, man, watching you with your team and being happy for those guys and, you know, applauding them and being a fan of a fight when, you know, I think a lot of us would have thought that would have been potentially a tough night for you, that was your fight, that was a title fight, and that it was Justin versus Khabib. You watched it unfold. You watched it at your academy, you know, big projection screen. And then Khabib, you know, a rival that you've had for years, that you've never had a chance to fight, says he's going to walk away from the sport. Can you take us into that moment? What were you feeling when you were watching that?
He was emotional. I already called it out. You know, I said the same thing that Dana said. I said it before anybody. He got emotional. He'll be back. He's going to go back and talk to his mom, say what's up. The kid's too young to be able to retire right now. Same thing with Conor. You can make all the money in the world, but if you're a competitor and you're an athlete, and you can attest to this, I see you nodding out of your head, you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to walk away on that kind of thing. For all the emotions, and like I said, Khabib and I, we go way back. We go way back from him circling my family. Remember all that? And my team, and then me going up there front line being like, can't your team in there with you. And that dude, man, he got a phone call from one of his boys after he saw me cutting weight, and I was one of my dudes that was piecing him apart, and that dude don't get pieced apart by me. And they saw it, and they made a phone call to Khabib and Ali, and they said, don't show up. You and your little Russian friends. And they went, and as good of a manager as Ali is, he's still a piece of that dude says he knows all the ropes and everything. The UFC said if you need to get any kind of medical attention, and they say it to you during the fight week, and even during panic situations, who do you want on your team? You want a guy that panics and runs away? Or do you want a guy like me that's going to go up? So regardless, that fight, I loved it. It was cool. I'm a fan of the sport. I took it off. I took my hat off to him, and I did it. As far as he retires and as far as we ever meet and everything like that, I'm not going to say it's a Christian-Muslim war. I'm not going to say anything like that. But what I will say is, look, he's got his hands full if it does come to me.
Last question for you, Tony, because you've talked a lot about, it seems like you have a lot of pride for being that first guy back with the UFC and bringing sports back to the world, as you should have a lot of pride for it. But you say that that fight was for the world, this fight is for you. So what are you fighting for on Saturday?
That's for me, not for you. That's that little thing that I have in here. I'm completely naked. Everybody sees it. But when I'm in there and you guys see me having a good time, and it reminds you of like all the preparation I've ever done. Remember the jump ropes, remember the walk, remember the view I showed you, and all the things, and I even tell you, you're still taking care of yourself. You know, I send Dana a message, I'm like, hey man, even though we don't see eye to eye, I was like, you inspire me. You encourage me to get up and go and do my boots on because you're doing that. And if you don't have other people like me doing that, then you're not going to have other fighters do that. He can count on me. The Fertitas, they can count on me. These guys, ESPN, you guys can count on me, but you're not saying my name. It's cool. I don't need it. Say other people's names. Start welcoming other people's names. It's not just Conor. I said Conor, not McNuggets. And Khabib, same thing. You got to open up. Don't be a casual. You know, be a hardcore fan. Remember those two terms, how they were so weird, right? Those are my terms.
Yep.
Dubbed.
Yep.
You know, now we got a lot of skateboarding going on. I'm not saying I started it, but we just kept it rolling. And now we have a lot of people that are doing a lot of these cool things and getting outside of their bounds and then outside of their means and they're going outside, right? So I want to tell you guys, if you look a little pale, take a look in the mirror. Go outside once in a while. Unplug and quit doing and being envious of everybody else that you think has got it better than you. And get to work.
It's going down on Saturday, UFC 256, co-main event, Tony Ferguson versus Charles Oliveira. Looking forward to it, man. Tony, thank you for the time.
Absolutely. And make sure you follow me on my way to victory at Tony Ferguson XT on IG and the little tweet thingy. UFC Apex. We out.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.